Hi everyone, welcome to Extra Credit, and today we're going to be talking about Weltanschauung. Or, for those of you not listening in German, Worldview. Worldview is all about the beliefs that we have, what we think about the world around us. Like, for example, some people think that standardized tests should have no place at all in the education system. Some people think that testing products on animals should be illegal, and some people think it's a good idea to consume an entire bag of cheese curds in one sitting. And I can tell you from experience that those people are wrong. So before we jump into today's topic, take a moment to look at this picture. Is the woman old or is she young? If you see the young woman first, you're pretty normal. If you see the old woman first, you're slightly more perceptive than the average 8th grader. If you can see both, congratulations, you're divergent and you're probably starring in a mediocre young adult film right now without even knowing it. Now, the point of this illustration is that this image is ambiguous. That means it can be seen in two different ways, and neither one of them is wrong. They're both equally valid. It just depends on your perspective, kind of like Gollum and Smeagol. And that's what worldview is all about. Worldview just means the unique way that you personally see or understand the world around you. It's the thoughts, perspectives, and beliefs that you bring to, well, everything. Because otherwise it would just be a view. Now, maybe you're wondering, why are we talking about worldview in a channel that's supposed to be about history? I mean, is this some kind of conspiracy? Well, there are two answers to that. Number one, I'm the teacher and I get to decide what we're talking about. And number two, worldview and history are completely interrelated with each other because whatever your worldview is will determine how you view history. And history itself is shaped by the worldviews of people. You see, the way you understand history is entirely dependent on the worldview that you bring with you. Your beliefs, values, opinions are like a pair of glasses that you're wearing all the time without knowing it. They color everything you see, kind of like Google Glass except way less creepy. But what's actually in a worldview? Well, hypothetical student, I'm glad you asked, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Your worldview is made up of, but not limited to, your beliefs about the following things you're going to see: God, faith, and religion, how the universe came to exist, the meaning of life/purpose of humans, truth, good and evil, right and wrong, government, education, work, personal lifestyles, other people and cultures, what really happens to socks that go missing in the dryer. Well, not that last one quite as much, but all those other things are really, really important for determining your worldview. And the thing is, the higher up you go on the list, the more important the item is. In other words, what you believe about God, faith, and the meaning of life is going to have a way bigger impact on the rest of the things on that list than whether or not clowns are actually terrifying or just misunderstood. Now, bit of a disclaimer here, it's not my job to tell you what to think, but I do believe it's my job to teach you how to think. Because whatever you end up believing is going to have a huge impact on the rest of your life. Your worldview is going to determine the course of your life. As an example, I once heard a story about a guy who locked himself inside a giant freezer. Naturally, he became pretty terrified in there and thought he was going to freeze to death. He started to panic, his body started to shut down, and the next day when they opened up the door, sure enough, he was lying there dead. When they did the autopsy later on, they found that the cause of death was hypothermia. But here's the crazy thing, the freezer wasn't even turned on. Now, that particular story may be just an urban legend, but it still proves the point that what you believe is really, really powerful. Because there's actually lots of scientific evidence to show that what you believe can have real physical consequences. Take, for example, doctors who give their patients a pill that has nothing but sugar in it, and the patient believes it's going to cure them, and sometimes it actually does. Or there are stories about healthy people who go to work and everybody tells them that they look sick, and sure enough, by lunch hour, they're going home actually sick. The point is this: history is the story of reality, and reality is shaped and determined by our beliefs. But on a side note to my 6-year-old self, no, this does not mean that you actually got the Ninja Turtle action figure that you really wanted just because you had a dream about it and it felt so real. Yeah, waking up was pretty devastating that morning. But I digress. Another way of putting this is that our beliefs determine our actions, and our actions change history. For example, the British Empire had been involved in the slave trade, that is, the buying and selling of African slaves, from as far back as the 1500s. For centuries, this was considered completely normal and acceptable. But then in the late 17 and early 1800s, the abolitionist movement, which was the movement to end slavery, really got going, and a man named Wilber-Force stood up and spoke out against slavery over and over again. He did this because, as a devout Christian, his belief was that God had created all people equal, and that therefore slavery was wrong, that it was a crime against humanity. You see, his beliefs about God changed everything else in his life and changed world history forever. Also, fun fact, Wilber-Force was actually the head of a secret superhero crime-fighting team called the Wilber-Force. They were all abolitionists with normal jobs by day, but by night they would actually get together and fight secret... Wait, that's not actually... Okay, so apparently that's not actually true, but it would have been awesome. But on the other end of the spectrum, worldviews can also have disastrous consequences. Take Adolf Hitler, for example. He believed that history was a series of struggles between the so-called superior races and the inferior races, and that it was the job of the superior races to exterminate and wipe out the inferior ones. Now, that may sound crazy, and actually be crazy, but here's the terrifying thing. That worldview led directly to the murders of 6 million Jews in the death camps of Europe during the Holocaust. You see, beliefs matter. They have real consequences. So whatever you do choose to believe, choose carefully. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. It's always fun to make this show and get to talk about history together. Your challenge from last week was to tell me who is jumping out of this guy's head and what's all happening here. And congratulations to those of you who found out that this is a scene from Greek mythology. That's all I'm going to say for now. Your challenge for this week is to see if you can find the longest word in the German language and tell me what it means. As always, it was lots of fun to make this video. Please take some time to share it with your friends and family, with people who love history or maybe don't love history yet. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.